Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of 911-ish. I am your host today, Jeff Williams, and I'm here with Kris Germain. Say hi, Kris.
Hello.
And if you've heard me say the name Kris Germain before, it's because I've plugged his gym, CrossFit Through and O, because he has allowed me to record multiple episodes here. So thank you very much for that. And if you're in the South Bay and want or trying to get into CrossFit or looking for a CrossFit gym, it's a fantastic gym. I started coming here probably 12 years ago, right after you started.
Right after we opened, first year.
So thanks for joining us, and it'll be another episode.
5840 speaking, question assistance. We have a possible 211 in progress at the Bank of America. Bank of America, located north of Kirs. We have shots fired.
All units, officer needs help. At the Bank of America, located north of Kirs, officer needs help. Bank of America, 911 emergency.
I'm at a drive-thru right now. I ordered my food 3 times. I asked 4 different times to
I what's the problem there? I got a man in the pool. He's got his driver stuck in the pump line. What? You're kidding me. I'm telling you, honest to God, something really got to say the point.
All right, Kris, thanks for having us here, and thanks again for letting us record multiple episodes in your gym here. Today's going to be a little different of a podcast for us on our show, because usually we have public safety personnel who work in public safety helping us out, and Kris has a different perspective. You've never worked in public safety, correct?
Correct.
You are you started as a personal trainer, right?
Yeah.
And I was up in Hollywood. You were an actor too, right?
That's right.
Yes, I have so many friends that are actors.
Yep. Yeah, I was acting, and I was tired of, I was bartending before this, and I just hated life like that. And I needed some extra work, and a friend got me I got certified, and he got me into a gym.
And that was before CrossFit, or like
long before.
Before CrossFit even was a thing, or was it just kind of an underground?
No, let's see. Gosh, I don't know the timing of it. I was personal training in Hollywood. It was probably about the same time that it began, but I came in 5 to 7 years after that, maybe 5 years after that. So it had already been going, but at the time, nobody knew.
Yeah, it was still an underground.
Oh
kind
yeah,
of thing.
oh yeah. It was
like Fight Club.
It was like I was just searching. I was so bored with what I was doing in the gym personally. I like to move, and athleticism was very attractive to me. My personal training style was already kind of loud and jumping all over the place and stuff like that. And so I was just looking for something different for me, and I stumbled across CrossFit. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh, those guys are going to kill themselves. Mm-hmm. They're good athletes, but they're going to kill themselves.
Do you remember how you found it?
I do. I Googled.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for body weight stuff because I was like, oh, maybe I'll become like a master with body weight stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what skinny guys always think.
That's right. Big guys always think, I'll just lift heavier weights.
That's it. Yeah. So I started looking around, and a gym called Jim Jones popped up. And at the time, the movie 300 was happening, right? All these ripped dudes. Well, the guy who owned that gym had a really cool website, and he trained the actors famously. And it was just gritty and dirty, like rusty stuff in Utah. And I mean, literally, like,
CrossFit.
it was old school. But as I was like looking at his website, it would populate under there, right, with other types of light. Yeah. And then I'm like, CrossFit, what's that? And so I started watching videos of what they were doing. And what really changed me, again, like I wasn't one of the people that was like, oh, I want to do that. But I started reading articles. I'm like, why are they doing stuff like that? There was a lot of counterintuitive things to what was going on, which is what people think now. But imagine 12 years ago, or is actually 13 years ago when I first started getting into it, 14. So I was like, why are they doing that? And Greg Glassman was writing articles, and he's a genius. And the way that he wrote and what he described as value in movement,
Yes,
and where to get value and how to give people world-class fitness with not much. That was it wasn't gyms full of rogue equipment.
yeah. Rogue hadn't even existed yet.
Did
probably
not exist.
Yeah.
There were many more garage gyms than actual CrossFit gyms when I joined up.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Hey, you need a medicine ball, you need some barbells, you need a kettlebell, you need a, and then we can just
Destroy you.
Yep, we can absolutely turn you into another thing." And so that was very attractive to me because I was training people in $1 million gyms, and I didn't fit in very well there, and
Not a lot of room to jump around.
no, I was loud too. So. Anyway,
So you decided to start a CrossFit gym in Redondo,
Yep.
and you were one of the first in the South Bay, right? Because you still have the area code, and that used to be like if you could start a CrossFit gym with the area code, you were one of the OGs in the neighborhood.
That's how you know. They don't even let you do it anymore.
Really?
Nope.
That I did not know.
Yeah. I don't exactly know why. I don't know if that just makes it more proprietary or something like that, but they won't let you do it, or maybe people started anticipating it and grabbing those things. So anyway,
Like buying domains.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was number 3 in the area.
Wow.
And one of them was a half mile away. So I literally walked down to CrossFit South Bay.
Yeah.
And I walked in and saw Forrest, and I was like, "Hey man, I just want you to know I'm about to open up a gym half mile away, and I'm not interested in poaching any of your people. I want to have a great relationship with you." And he was so cool. He was so generous, and he was established. He was sharp dude, and he was established already. And I was like, we're not gonna look like what you're doing for a while, if ever. And that is true today still. But he was so generous. He goes, "Let me know if you need anything." And he has always been like that.
That's awesome.
Yep. We don't talk very often, but he was so generous. And so we had a great relationship, and then tried, you meet the other guys early on.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean,
and then CrossFit basically became like Starbucks, and they started popping up everywhere.
Yeah. There's a lot of them. Still, people don't understand exactly what it is, but it's amazing to me how many people don't know still, or aren't aware
how
of
quote unquote mainstream it's become.
Yeah. So if you live in the exercise world, you've definitely heard of it.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. And if you live in the meme world on the internet, you've heard of it.
it's true.
So,
I'll be honest; those things are funny.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So I remember my first exposure to this gym. I came in, and so I found CrossFit because I was hitting on a girl, and she said, I was talking to her, and I was like, "Did you want to go out?" And she's like, "Oh no, I got to go to the gym." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "Do you want to go to the gym with me?" I was like, "Well, where is it?" And it was in Santa Monica. It was CrossFit LA, I think, the old CrossFit LA.
Andy Petranik.
And I was living in Torrance, and I'm like, I'm not going to drive to Santa Monica to just work out, so I'm good. We'll catch up another time. We'll go out some other day. And she's like, okay, cool. And I just was like, what the hell is CrossFit? And I started Googling it, and I was like, well, if I'm going to go on a date with her, I need to speak her language. So I went to...
I don't think I knew that. All these years, I don't think I knew that.
So I Googled CrossFit, and you were the second gym. I don't remember the first one. It was somewhere off 190th Street. But I went there, and they were in the middle of class, and nobody even came talk to me. And I just watched for a minute, and since nobody talked to me, I was like, okay, bye. And I left, and I came here. And I met you. You were training somebody, and you gave me an introductory date and to come back this date at this time, and we'll do a workout. And I was like, okay, cool. So it was like 2 days later, and I came back, and I christened a bush with some vomit, and took me about 12 minutes to do something that should have taken 5.
Oh, my gosh.
And, yep.
This is where... Remember at the beginning when we're like, hey, if you want to find a gym, your story does not match up.
It does not coincide with this gym.
No, one thing that everybody needs to know is back in the day, for sure, we would push, I don't know, I don't think I ever did that. I
You
had
never
pretty.
did.
I had a pretty good.
You were always.
I came from a personal training background.
You always had that
so
point
I
where
was,
you're like,
I was,
stop.
Yep. I was never like, hey, I'm going to show you how hard this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we destroyed you. I never was like that. No. But Jeff Williams is like that.
Yeah, I walked in and was just like, this is going to crush me. This is awesome.
And so I would say, well, yeah, because you were a football player before and you knew how to push hard. Mm-hmm. You did, and your body let you. It was just when you stopped, your body was like,
we're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yes. But the really funny thing is that's what you told me. This is so Jeff Williams. That's how you knew this was for you, is because it made you throw up.
Yep.
That is.
Yep. I remember afterwards, I came back like 5 minutes later just devastated. I'm like, here's my credit card. Let's do this.
Yeah. That is amazing. You know what? This isn't for this podcast, but oh my gosh. If I could tell all Jeff Williams stories,
we could do that
they're
if you want.
So
it's okay.
good. The stories are so good. We've got some hysterical stories. But you know what, dude? I still use you as an example. You are a metric in the gym of what people can do, what they can accomplish, if you guys don't know, if you're listening to this and you have not seen Jeff Williams, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big dude. You're a giant human. And I mean that with the greatest affection. But this big dude, because we do gymnastics in this joint. So, when you went and Olympic lifted, yes, of course. The barbell is your best friend. You are built to move, things like that. You got great mobility, better mobility than any big man that I've ever seen, which was a real help. But that's not all. You wouldn't have just barbells.
Yeah.
You got your push-ups to be pristine. You
convinced me to run a 5K for
Oh
God's
my
sakes.
gosh,
And
we ran a 5K next to each other.
It was the worst experience ever.
That is not true. Do you know what you asked? What you asked me right after we were done?
I don't.
When can we do another one?
I don't remember that.
You were so elated right afterwards. I'll never forget it. That's how you know, that's an endorphin high, right?
I was just going to say, I do remember coming back to the gym afterwards and being like, I understand what a runner's high is, but at the same time, I knew I was going to be so
at the
beat
speed
up.
at which we were running. That was so funny.
Yeah, you mean at the walking pace that what
But
we
it
were...
was, no, the gratification that you get from development, that's what makes you special. Handstands against the wall, single arm handstand.
Falling and dislocating my shoulder.
That
or
is true.
sublocating my shoulder.
That is, you sublocated your shoulder.
Do you remember when Fuji and everybody was trying to do handstands on the rings? And I tried to
have it. I got it on video. It is one of my favorites.
If you send me that, I will post it with this episode on Instagram.
We can't, because the video that I have is with a song and they won't let it go up. So we got to hide it. But it is stinking funny.
Okay.
I got to send you it though. I've got it. It's one of those ones where I edited a whole year.
Oh,
together.
okay.
But truly, dude, I was like, oh my gosh, I tell people about you still. I'm like,
That's
dude,
flattering.
and the reason why is it's so hard. As hard as it is to put on, for me to do big man stuff, right? For me to do heavy weights, it's hard. It's hard mentally. But for you to have a big man doing small man type of movements, you getting your double unders, you running, it's awesome, man. You were very special inside of this place, and that's why you became a coach. That's why I would be able to send people to you. I'd say, just go next to this guy, because what he has become is a totally different thing than what he walked in as. You got fit.
I did. And now I'm not. So that's actually something I need to start working on. So, because COVID happened and I moved about 30 miles away, and then it just became a vicious cycle of, look, the couch.
It is, and it won't We're all at the mercy of that. COVID changed all of us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but yeah, I remember on that first day I walked in, I got done with the workout, and in my last round, I saw a few people walk in the gym. I had no idea who they were. And I got done, and I was laying in the gym, and you hosted a cop fit class just as I was dry heaving on the floor. writhing in pain, and all these guys are just looking at me puking outside, and I had no idea who they were. I had no idea what any of this was. And then you started talking about CopFit. And at the time, I was still working at the college as a student employee doing parking enforcement and assisting in dispatch and stuff like that. So, I at that point in time, I was like my whole career idea for my life was like I wanted to be a police officer.
Yes.
So I was like, what's this CopFit thing?
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And I remember the very first 3 people I met in here. I still remember them were Ray, Fuji, and Miguel. And I was just like, okay, because I saw Ray as like, okay, Ray's not anywhere near as big guy as I was, but Ray was a bigger guy, and I watched him work out with these littler guys. I'm like, okay, if he could do this, I could do this.
Ray is made of the same stuff you are. He would not just be satisfied with like, oh, I'm a big guy made that way. He disciplined himself and he became crazy fit. His mobility, yep, you guys are made of the same stuff in that sense.
So, but so yeah, that was one of the things that I always thought was really cool because even within the world of CrossFit, like it wasn't designed for military and law enforcement and public safety, but a massive amount of people from those communities partook in CrossFit, and that was one of the cool things that I saw that this gym did was it dedicated just a class to public safety personnel. So do you even remember how that came about? Like, was that your idea? Or?
And so the very first thing I need to say is it's all because of them. You know, Ryan was the guy. Ryan was so passionate about CrossFit. He was so dedicated to this place, and it was his idea. It was their ambition. Mm-hmm. And so they just told me about it, and he was like, I got a lot of people that can do it. And so we did. And then we just designed it. We designed it in a way that they could come in and I can't remember. I know it was once a week. Was it twice a week or once a week? I can't remember.
That I don't remember.
But it was amazing, you know. So it was them. Like, and I am. Yeah, whenever something great like that happens, and that was a really cool, great thing. I'm still proud to have been a part of it. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't born in my head. It was born inside of a guy who is like, he just loved this. And he wanted to help other people feel like this and help develop them and build camaraderie. Yeah. And that's exactly what
that's
happened.
what it does. I mean, there's no doubt that just suffering with other people, no matter who they are,
and developing
makes you part of them and makes, it's just crazy. So, yeah. So, before... Or how can I say this? Like when CopFit started, was that like your first big exposure to public safety, or like the people in public safety?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. It wasn't necessarily even CopFit because I'm trying to remember how long those guys were here before. Well, yeah, before CopFit.
I don't know because it was my first day. They were already in a course or in a class. So
that's interesting. Yeah, to be honest with you, I can't remember the story. I'm really old, so I've lost. It's all going away fast.
Well, it was 15, 14 years ago. So.
Yep. But I can tell you that. So in my mind, it was just them being involved in classes at first. And it might have been shortly after. I honestly can't remember the timeline. It'd be great to ask them about that someday. But I was radically influenced. I know this is what we're getting to today, but it did start. It started with cops. Yeah. It started with cops in the gym. And let me back up just a little bit because another thing that I owe to CrossFit is CrossFit did a great job of honoring first responders, military, and like they really held that up. Like they would name workouts after heroes, right? Mm-hmm. And so and there's something when leadership tags something as valuable, and then they showed it. Right? They just kept showing it, and they kept saying, you're valuable, this is valuable for you, this is, it because of that, like I didn't serve time in the military, but the flags are all over the place thanks to you and other people like who came in here. And so
Tiff and what's Tiff's
Rick?
husband's name? Tiff and Rick.
Yeah.
I remember they and you were basically just like, can we get flags? And then I was like, I got them if you guys want to hang them up. And then they all hung them up with you. And
Bill Sasser is the first one that gave me a flag.
oh, really?
And I put the flag up, and you were like, why is there only one flag up there?
Yeah.
And then,
oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then Fuji brought in the first giant American flag, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing was 20 feet tall.
Yep. In fact, so like, and it was, so he ended up taking that flag and I bought another one, but that was him. Like, so all those, like, I'm being informed by value, right?
Yeah.
Because it was Fuji who said, this is valuable. And it was. Like, it's a marker inside of our gym. Like, everyone kind of gets a flag picture where you're doing some sort of exercise in front of it.
We took one with Rothy and
that's
EB,
right.
So.
I am so informed by the community of CrossFit who said first responders, military, and are valuable, right? And then what really changed me, it was those guys, and it was cops at first. At first it was cops, and it was the entrance of those guys that you mentioned, and just working out with them. And
it should go without saying, hopefully it does at least, that it wasn't just those three.
Oh
those
my
were
gosh.
the three that I was exposed to in the beginning.
Yeah, in fact, I've got a Post-it note here with all these names. We were trying to, before we started here, we're trying to remember all. I'm terrified to forget their names because they're so valuable, and so we won't mention them all. But I mean, we're talking by now. We're talking well. I mean, I've had over 100. Cops, firefighters, FBI, military, like just everything. Yeah. But it was the cops who I had an everyday life with. And this is probably how I ended up on this with you, as I was telling a couple of your guys that were doing a podcast, it changed my life. We went through COVID and it was a mess, right? All that social distress, and I would have been just like every other person. In fact, I was. I already believed the things that you believe sound bites.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you
see clips and they're out of context. And so I didn't really appreciate law enforcement. I didn't I was suspicious of it. It's the easiest way to say it. And but those guys coming into my gym, we'd work out every day together. I would either coach them or work out with them. And then they became friends. Then they became coaches inside of my place. And they were honorable. And they were funny. And they were parents. And this is what was great. They were vulnerable. So, and I wouldn't say by nature, it's just because we were working out together, and what you said, like there was community that was built. And
we all basically, it's a different type of suffering, but we all suffered together in the pain that is this environment of I mean, it sounds way more hardcore than it is, but it's you suffer in the pain of working out with them.
Well, and that is you're right. Like that is part of it. When you do something hard together, you're bonded. But also just like if we just say the hours together, just the hours. Yeah. Just the sheer amount of hours, and then side conversations that you get to afterwards and before while you're warming up. And then expressing an affection for these guys, like I wanted to do well by them. Yeah. Because that's what I want to do with my life. I want to help. And then they would respond to that. And, but these guys were vulnerable with me over time. And when I say that, what that means is they told me about what life was like as a cop. Yeah. What it was like. Family member of a cop. That's right. What it was like to be afraid. Yeah. What moments they are afraid in. What it's like to deal with trouble, because I would be like, man, how can you guys ever do it? And sometimes I was surprised at what they would tell me. I'm like, are you sure you can tell me that? But they were candid. And then what was really shocking when they would describe, how difficult it was. what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and the situations they were being in, I was like, how in the world? I
And
mean, that's a calling.
Yeah. And they're
You know what I
literally
mean?
just having
Like-
a conversation with you. They're like,
Yeah, that's
it's
just
not
what
like
we
they're-
do every
yeah,
day.
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
that they're like a therapist office, crying
No.
and being torn out of them. It's just
No, this is
like,
it.
yeah, I saw another 4 bodies today. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
or just the uncomfortable nature of
Yeah.
what an investigation is, or going through a door, or having people hate you.
Yeah. For no
Do you know
reason
what I
other
mean?
than you're wearing a piece of cloth and a piece of
Yeah,
metal.
yeah, because they're suspicious.
Yeah.
So and meanwhile, I hear them talking about how they can try to do best by the people they're going to help. But sometimes you got to go in and it's complicated. So I gathered
It's not
all
always
of
a
that.
good answer.
Yeah, it isn't. I gathered all of that, and it changed my life. And I saw them as humans, and they had kids, and they were empathetic with mine, and they were loving with me and my family, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that was giant for me. My entire perspective changed. And then, of course, firefighters came in, and we got everybody in law enforcement.
Yeah.
We've had every department that you can sign up come through here.
Yeah. I remember we did a 9/11 memorial wad, and we got people from like 4 or 5 agencies that came in and worked out with us. So yeah, it was awesome. So
You wrote that wad,
I did.
by the way.
I think I still have it at home somewhere.
I know. I should have honored
it
that
was,
more, buddy. You did a good job.
It was the year was a certain number of reps for something, and then the number of firefighters and police officers that died was reps for something else.
Yep.
For other movements. So, but those public safety personnel that come in, they have to have a different, and military, have a different kind of mentality when they work out than the general public. I would, at least from my exposure of it, is they see it more of not just doing it to like get their workout in. They do it because they know that their life can depend on their physical fitness at some point in time. When they come in and they affect the community as they do, does that change the way that you programmed in the facility, or change the way that you brought up or how you ran classes, because you knew that they were going to be there for that, to try and push everybody harder, or to try and do any of that stuff? Or was it more of a I'm programming for the masses and they just happen to come in and work out with us?
Well, here's how. I mean, that's there's kind of a couple of different answers to that. I am a pretty convicted dude on what I think about the body and human movement and where it fits into life. Some people felt like I was trying to stifle their development, and but it went hand in hand on what I believed was healthy and good for humans, because even way back then,
nobody should be getting rhabdo from working out.
Yeah, well, listen, like this, I can say this more clearly now, especially I've been in it so long. Like, I'm old in this, and I've watched, like, we were all learning about what the methodology would do. The methodology of exercise really did change with CrossFit because human bodies were doing things that hadn't been done. Not this much work, not this much volume, not this. It was just different. And so, but CrossFit learned everything. CrossFit looks different now than it used to.
Oh, absolutely.
And it has more knowledge, and people are expressing it much differently than it used to. It used to just be all about how hard can you go, how heavy can you lift, and we were never like that. And I think you know that.
No.
But the cops that came in, the firefighters that came in, they were strong and they were good athletes. So they're early adopters, and so they were already fit. Some of them were already doing it other places, and they found my place because I was early in this. So,
well, I think another big part of it too is that you didn't have the mentality of push yourself until you're hurt. You had the mentality of work out hard and then make yourself better the next time you come in.
Yeah.
So.
And that was still, but it's hard, like, because it's a little bit of a drug. If you see development, right, and you feel this way, then your mind says, well, if a little bit of that is good for me.
More is better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And really that's what we've learned. Like what we've learned, and I mean, all the people who were pushing, the leaders in CrossFit, who were pushing to see how hard and how far the human body could go, guess what they're talking about right now?
Rest and recovery.
Yep. And breathing.
Yep.
Like they're like, absolutely.
Yep.
Because they saw where the end result is, and the end result is not longevity and thriving.
Yeah.
And so that's what's easy to talk about now. We still do hard things. We do harder things than most people want
Will ever
to
do
do.
in their life. Yeah.
But it is good to point it in the direction of thriving. And that's how, even back then, I knew it and I believed it. And so I would talk about it a lot. But the cops were very good athletes. The firefighters were very good athletes. The military were very good athletes. And so they themselves, because they could, their capacity was high, they dictated where we are. Like right now, our gym looks a little different than that. We've got some bangers inside of here, but most of the people that we have, like they're not pursuing the crazy high level stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, I also think there was like this cult mentality about 8 or 10 years ago where it was like everybody thought like, oh, if I just push harder, I'm going to go to the games. If I just push harder, I can make it to what was it, regionals. Yeah. You're like, you're like 500th of 22,000. Like, you know, even if you are in the top 500, you're one of the greatest athletes in the world, but you're a long ways to go. And I think that was a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Oh yeah.
So
that you're right. Like and then I would have people tell me, well, they would come in, they're like, I can't do it right now, but I'll be a masters athlete. And I'm like, you gotta realize by the time you get there, who's gonna be
Rich
masters
will be
athlete?
masters with you. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question. It was kind of a wide answer. Sorry.
I remember going back to the addiction feeling. What you were kind of talking about that's how it was with Kris Myth and I, where it was I saw him and I saw like when we worked out, I saw that like, okay, he's going to affect that change in me and he's doing it with me. So it was a drug. I mean, we spent 4 hours a day in here, 5 days a week, just doing crazy, weird things that you probably at some point in time in the future or now would probably say that probably wasn't the best idea, but we did it anyways.
For sure. Starting with the number 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, there was a time there for like 3 months in a row where we did triple workouts in a day. It was like going back to football practice. Yeah. So, oh man, I still remember we did this sprints, burpees, and tire flips workout. And it was like 10 rounds. And I swear to you, I hate him for the rest of my life for that, but it was one of the best workouts I'd ever had done. And I was on the floor for like 20 minutes afterwards, just heaving in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
kind of want to do it again.
Yeah, I kind of want to do it again. Yeah. Yep. That is that drug aspect of it. There is something people just don't understand, like what we mean by that for people who are like, what the heck are they talking about is, and this is stuff that people are talking about right now. I actually run the gym and program around the idea of the feel-good chemicals that are produced.
Dopamine response, right?
Yeah, endorphins, dopamine response, like this entire euphoric feeling of one, just moving. Yeah. Movement alone produces feel-good chemicals in your body, and your body's like, I like that. Mm-hmm. 2, accomplishing something that is hard that not everybody else is doing, and developing yourself. Mm-hmm. Dopamine. Yeah,
you know, chasing the RX, right?
That's exactly right. And so the drug of that, like after a while, people start to associate, and this is not correct. Mm-hmm. It just exists. But if you don't coach people well enough inside of it, they think if it wasn't hard enough, it wasn't good enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the more destroyed you are. Yeah. And that's what I would call bad CrossFit. That's what I would call, seriously, because we know too much now. Yeah. But that's what burns people out. Like the body can't, you blow out your own chemicals, and the body starts not responding if it's too hard. So that idea of the drug, it still exists, and people are like, oh, let's play the game. We got to do the thing. I'm slightly nervous. It's going to be great. I want to see what I can do. But we keep that at the end.
Yeah.
You know, it's at the end, and I know that, oh, we can't wait to get there. But all the way up, I'm like, hey, you got to eat your vegetables. Here's your coach vegetables. You got to go through this warm up. You got to do your strength and skill. You got to, and so it's really cool to have lightning in a bottle like that and be like, hey, here it is. Dangle the workout, you know, in the play and the sense of development in front of them. And so, but it is still exists, but I think it's done much better now. I'm thankful to
It's definitely
have
done differently.
Oh
and
my
that's
gosh.
across the spectrum.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really, you still do it occasionally, but you don't really see the, what were the original girls?
Cindy.
Yeah.
Is
you
that what
still see
you were
those,
talking about?
Yeah, but there was one where it's like I forgot what the name of it is. It was like the Dirty Girl workout back when it first started, where it was like I forgot what it was. I'll look it up, but it was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But it
for
was like
people who
thousands
are
of reps and
listening to
stuff.
this and talking about girls and stuff, like they won't have context for that.
Yeah,
but if
yeah,
you're
that's
not in CrossFit, there are workouts that were named. There's a few named after girls, and they were women in the gym that Coach Glassman was coaching. So like they were his great athletes, and so like one is called Barbara, one is called Chelsea, one is called Annie, one is called Fran, right? And they just became markers, and that people would do again and again. And then there were the hero wads that they started naming too, you know, that were gender inclusive, dudes too.
Yes, you know, got to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, going back to the public safety personnel that were in the gym, when you, in your experience at least, do you think that the public safety personnel in here positively or negatively affected the gym population as a whole? What I mean by that is like how your paradigm kind of shifted knowing them. Did you get it? Do you think that the rest of the gym felt that way too?
I don't know if it is conscious for people. I would for sure say yes. I mean, you know, we were working out with some higher level guys, not just guys in squad cars, but higher level guys, you know, who've been promoted even higher and higher, right? Like, and they're working out right next to you. You know, I got to meet the dude who created Coffee with a Cop, right? Yeah. And he was great. And that whole philosophy, I already knew about that philosophy before he even created it, because it was workout with a cop, you know, or workout with a firefighter. And, I don't know. There's something about the way that they do their jobs, and there's something about, like, I saw a lot of honor in it. And, you know, I mean, there's just great men and women, and number of women. It was so fun to have the women inside of here as well. And I don't know. They just, I for sure know that they impacted people on an everyday level because they modeled the things. They were leaders. Yeah. They were leaders, and they would go to people and help people. Like, that's what I want inside of this gym. I want people going to other people. We call it pursuing people. And that's like, it's a metric for my coaches now. I'm like, if you're not the kind of person who will pursue somebody, you're not going to be a coach here. Like, you just won't do it. It was something that I was like, that's the difference. I see the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. And, or sorry, I shouldn't say good coach and a bad coach. I should say somebody that I really want to have on staff and somebody who I do not really want to have on staff. Yeah. And if somebody's like just kind of waits there and waits for people to come to them and they're the authority figure and you got to come ask me, nope. Like, we go to people.
Go when you see when they're in need, you got to go over and help them. So.
And I would say that, you know, like, there's kind of a, you know, that's the philosophy of what we're talking about. Yeah. And so they were that inside of this place. And so I'm not sure if the people could articulate it, but I can see it clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Awesome. Am I the only dispatcher that you've had here that you know of at least?
No, because you brought some friends
Well, yeah. So.
who were awesome, and I wish they were still here.
Yeah. Well, one of them still works out at Jamie's place.
She is so great.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And then the other one moved to Orange County. So
she did?
Yeah,
my gosh.
Actually, no, I think she's like on the LA Orange County border.
Okay.
Like Long
Yeah.
Beach area.
So just, you know what? I have one other, and I can't remember who it is right now because I said, hey, do you know Jeff Williams? So, how interesting. Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember who it was.
I find it interesting how public safety minus, how do I say this? Public safety in general, like, is a very physically fit, quote unquote, group, like first responders are.
Yeah.
But all the non-field personnel that are in public safety are not the healthiest groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure it has to do with, when you're a cop or a firefighter, you realize if you're running into a burning building or fighting with a cop or fighting with a suspect, that you have to be physically fit. But I think what a lot of people that don't do that realize is how important it is. Like, I literally sit in a chair between 12 and 16 hours a day without moving. And it's probably worse than smoking 5 packs a day.
Gosh.
I think one of the things that I think I'd like to happen with this is to hopefully have some other non-field personnel listen to it and kind of get motivated to go back to the gym, because I'm going to have to try to. I feel so fat and embarrassed just sitting here knowing that I used to be better than I am now.
Well, you know what? The best thing about this is Jeff, once upon a time, it was your drivenness, it was your sense of athleticism, it was your sense of go hard that drove you, and then you did have the tools and you had the work ethic to go into it. But I'll tell you what, dude, there's never been anything more influential in my life than leading and coaching and bringing people with me from my weaknesses.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm old, right? I'm old now, so my capacity, I was never a great CrossFitter. Yeah. I did not coach because people didn't come to me because I was so great at CrossFit. Ever. Yeah. I may be the most average CrossFit owner that has ever existed. In fact, I'm not sure I can find a gym owner that can do less than me. But I know how to coach an overhead squat from a person who didn't have an overhead squat it took me 3 years to get an overhead squat. Everything was hard for me.
But that's what makes it so valuable, because you know what it's like to go through and learn.
Right. So. But that's what I mean right now. You're like this, I hear you talking, and you might not be even at your most influential yet, but it could be this moment as you get back into your health and your fitness that people, that you find like this voice and you're like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too, you know?
Yeah. So hopefully it's what it is. So I have kind of a deeper question for you next. I mean, you're obviously, well, most people don't know this, but I know this. You're a family man.
Yes.
With your exposure now and your paradigm shifts from law enforcement or first responders, how would you feel if your kids got into the field of public safety compared to how you would have felt before your exposure?
Yeah. Here's how I'll answer that question. I'm going to answer it in 2 ways. The first is, as I look back, like I've been exposed to so many things, I can literally look back at my life and I can see how I would have personally benefited. The character of Kris Germain would have personally benefited from being in one of those areas. And one of the reasons why is clear leadership and learning. Like, there's a chain of leadership. To be honest with you, I have had a messy life. We get into that some other time. Like, I'm 50 and still trying to get, not 50 yet, but I'm coming up on 50 and still trying to get things together. Yeah, you have seen me at a couple of my worst moments because, and some of those things could have been avoided by being in a system that was like, you have leaders above you. This is how you act. There's discipline like this and this. I'm more of an artist, right?
Yeah.
Like
there's a mentorship that goes with it.
Right. So like that's one small thing, but also as I have listened to the stories, I'm like, I didn't have any family that was inside of that. My dad was in the military, but he died when I was younger, and so he didn't really have influence on me in like showing me or directing me in that way. But as I think back, I'm like, man, if I would have had some people in my family, if I would have been around it when I was younger, I'm pretty sure I would have gone into some area for a little bit. Like because I just see it. I'm attracted to a number of things, and some of it is service, and some of it is physical, and some of it is that kind of leadership quality and learning that that I admire. So that's one way, is that my desire, I think back now, and so I'm like, it's potential that my kids could desire that. And then here's the other thing. As a parent, I would have fears, right?
Yeah.
Because they're dangerous.
Yeah.
I have a number of very good friends who have had to watch their sons or daughters decide to go in that, and kind of you struggle with that. But this is what I would say. I would say I see this type of service as a calling. That is how I see it. You know that I'm a believer, and it ain't too far away from what I believe like a pastor is called to, right? Like I wouldn't say somebody, you should be a pastor if you feel like it's a good job move in your life, right?
If you think the retirement benefits are great.
No, that's not how. It's a calling. Yeah. And I actually saw that last year when I watched, or last year during COVID, like, goodness, man. You learn that in the towers. When the towers go down and men and women go into buildings like that, you learn that's a calling, and you don't look at that lightly. If you're looking at the benefits, you're not seeing it lightly because of what you're called to do. When cops were having bottles thrown at them, and yet they were there protecting everybody and letting them have their gathering or whatever.
Their job is to literally just sit there and be hated, and at the same time protect the people that hate them's ability to hate them.
To be honest with you, it blew my mind. I was like, I was like, oh my gosh, that's an incredible servant. That's a servant. And that blew my mind. So if my son or daughter expressed that I want to serve and protect, you know what I mean? And they were like, I think guns are great and I want to see what I understand the sense of adventure. I do. I get all that inside of it. That's inside of me too. Yeah. But to buy into that and say, Dad, I think this is it. I think I'm called to do this right now. I'd be like, okay, son. Yeah. I'd be like, let's pray. But but I'd say I support you, and so and I would be honored, right, to hold their picture and their lives up of how they're whatever area that they would go into serve, and I would be a proud father.
Yeah, it's always interesting. You could kind of get that feeling of when people are made to do this job is when you see something happen and you see some people run away and other people run towards it, and you're like, the people that run towards it, okay, I understand.
Gosh.
So
Yeah. How crazy.
yeah. So that was really most of what I wanted to talk about today. So that was good. And we're ending just on time. So you got time to relax. So before your next class. So speaking of which, you're going to start those 6:30 classes on Mondays and Tuesdays, right?
Shoot.
So that I can come after work real quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're sitting right there.
Yeah. So anybody else from the gym who hears this, tell Kris you want a 6:30 p.m. class on Mondays and Tuesdays so that we can get it together. We'll see if we can start up. What was it on Thursdays? It was
we got to
Thursday
get the
Night
coach
Thunders.
to coach that. That's what we got to figure out.
It was Thursday Night Thunders is what it used to be,
Oh
right?
my gosh. I can't believe you even remember that.
Oh,
We had a theme night.
Yep.
Like
We
that,
used
you're
to
right.
work out, and we went to dinner, and
Oh,
the
my
whole
gosh.
crew. That was how Vicky and Chad got me to go to yoga for the first time.
Really?
Almost die. Yeah.
Oh, Thursday night.
Thursday
Thunder.
Night
We had
Thunder.
to name it to like make it a thing
Yep.
so people would come.
Yep.
It got crowded.
It did.
Yeah.
It did great.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, anyways, thank you again, Kris, for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you for letting us host here when we are in dire need of a place to record, because that's the hardest thing I found so far is where we're going to do this. So,
Dude, it is an honor to thank you for asking me. I am very honored to be on this recording with you. I am rooting for this thing, and I'm rooting for you, and I love you like a brother.
likewise, my friend. Thank you.